Hi guys, and welcome back to another week of World's Best Gardens. This time we're looking at Auckland Botanical Gardens, and that's situated in 102 Hill Road, Manureil, Auckland. And I used to work here. Back in about 1983, I started as an apprentice at Botanic Gardens, and Botanic Gardens officially opened to the public in 1982. So this was a really cool time for Botanic Gardens. It was all very new. So it's a very new botanical gardens in the scheme of things. And back then, the gardens were very much arranged in sort of groupings and collections, like this collection here is the herb garden. And then there was the conifer garden and the South African garden. Later on, it did sort of change a little bit, and it became more of a kind of garden with plants interspersed and more kind of a landscaping sort of style, where you've got developed gardens with all sorts of different plants being showcased. So this herb garden is one of the very first gardens that was in place when I started work at Botanic Gardens, and Botanic Gardens was a good place to work, although it wasn't quite what I expected, because from school you obviously don't know really much about work, and the work here was pretty well labour intensive. It was weeding in the nursery, so I started off in the nursery, and then learning lots about propagation and watering plants, just the basics. So this part here is the new information centre. So that was, this area around here was all where the old rose garden used to be, and so this particular building here was placed in about 2005, and it really opened it up. There was a cafe and all sorts of new things that were added, and it was starting to really come into its own in 2005. This is something that's available on the weekend, that little train. What I do like about Botanic Gardens is lots of plants obviously are labelled, so you can get all the ID and really get an understanding of the plants. I've been going here for over 40 years now, so it's a really cool garden to visit. And each time I come along, there's always something new and interesting placed in. Of course, the budget here is a fairly decent size, because it's funded and was designed all by Auckland City Council. Back then it used to be called Auckland Regional Authority, but now it's called Auckland City Council, and they supply all the maintenance and the funding for the gardens. So this is just another new part to the gardens, or relatively new part to the gardens. It's called the edible garden part, and some various different designs there, formal designs with almost look like herb garden design there that's been converted. But yeah, all sorts of different plants here. We've got some nice sunflowers, and just in raised beds. Obviously a good idea if you're into edible gardens. You don't really want to be bending over too much. This is a really good idea, and of course you can bring the soil up in those bins and fill it up with lovely compost and good soil. Another interesting part to the gardens is that they also are there for botanists and for people trying to protect the natural natives out there. So this area has been set aside to those natives that are threatened. One of the most popular parts to the garden is this part here. It's the Perennial Garden, and lots of flowering plants. This is the time. This is the time to come and see the Perennial Garden. Obviously, in the summer, this is when the perennials are looking their best. And we've got lots of different colourful plants here mixed in with foliage plants as well, just to give you that mix. They used to have wood edging, but when I was surprised, I looked the other day and there's a bit of metal edging there that's used to sort of keep the borders all nice and straight. Of course, if you don't have edging, you're using a spade, and that sometimes can extend your borders more than you want as you edge the border every year. So having a proper edging, like a concrete edging or a wood edging or a metal edging like that one there, is a good idea. So lots of people come to visit the gardens. I think it is something like over 1 million people a year now that come to visit the gardens. And big draw card, of course, obviously is the plants, but also that it is one of the few things that are free to do, and anyone can sort of basically arrive here. And there's plenty of parking. They've extended the parking now because of the number of visitors, and so it's a really good place to come and have a look. As you can see, this is these ones where they have got really mixed borders of different plants. We've got some natives, and this is more of a native mix here, but we've got a different batch of plants, all nicely planted. One of the things that botanical gardens also do is they do these sort of star performers, and will do really well in Auckland conditions. And Auckland conditions are fairly mild. We don't get any snow, so we can get some severe frosts. And this particular site here that they've chosen is in Manurewa, and it was on the top of a hill, so it was a little bit exposed. So now with all the planting, it is a bit more protected. But yeah, the temperatures can get up to sort of into the mid-30s in summer. A little bit of high humidity as we're experiencing now in summer, but fairly mild, I guess, throughout the year because we don't get those severe snows. There's two big man-made ponds/lakes, and they really are quite nice to walk around and quite decent size. One of the things that they do try and also focus on at Botanic Gardens is a little bit of how to work with water and rainfall. So they do a little bit of things like how to deal with boggy situations. Okay, so this one here is the urban trees, and this is a really good place if you're looking for a small to medium sized tree, I would say, for your garden. This one here is a tea toki, that's a New Zealand native. And also, obviously, the other thing too is what plants will grow under these trees, so you can get an idea. Because quite often under trees is a good place to grow plants that probably prefer the shade. This is a fairly, almost like a new palm that's getting a bit of popularity at the moment, the Dipsis baroni, the sugarcane palm. And then favourites like the magnolias as well. So yeah, when I worked here, it was I did my apprenticeship here for 3 years, and then I left and went in to do a little bit of teaching, tried to do some teaching for a little while, and then I ended up in my own self-employed landscaping business. Now this is the roses. So I'd said before, roses were up the top. Now they're kind of right down the bottom end of the garden. It's a little bit sort of far out for a lot of people to come to visit because the gardens themselves spread over about 64 hectares, which is quite a bit of land, and then I believe there's about 10 hectares of natural native forest right at the back of the gardens, so further right down. So different roses. Roses have always been fairly popular. Now one of the things that was introduced in the 1990s, I believe, kind of as a request of the workers that were working there, and implemented by Jack Hobbs, is the guy that runs the place now for the management of it, was the no spraying of pesticides, or if they're going to spray, it's the last resort to spray, but generally it's a ban on pesticides. So no fungicides, insecticides and herbicides. So obviously that means that the plants that they select have to be fairly tolerant, and it all seems to be looking really well. And I think this is a really good thing, because when I worked there, they used to spray those roses about 3 times a week with all sorts of insecticides and fungicides, because roses do get a numerous black spot and thrips and aphids. But as you can see, the gardens are looking great and healthier for not being sprayed. So different times of the year, you've got camellias and magnolias, and of course, what we're doing is we're visiting in the summer, so a lot of these things now have flowered earlier on. So this is why places like Botanic Gardens are great to sort of visit throughout the year, because they'll show different plants will showcase at different seasons. They also have an orchard, which again is good for the home gardeners looking to find out what citrus are grown. This part here is called the Potters. This was like a children's garden, and it also was opened up in 2005 by Prince Charles. It's quite a cool garden. It has different parts to it, so you sort of almost come into a sort of tropical, subtropical part with these. Look at that amazing plant there. I mean, that's just a real sort of outstanding looking plant. The dinner plate fig. And then, apart from the subtropicals, this is also we're coming in now through those as a Monstera delicosus, the fruit salad plant, into sort of a desert region all in the same area. So it's really going to be educational for kids to walk through here, looking at all these different cactuses and the hot, dry plants. And then opposite that, we've got the plants that will do well in the boggy situations, growing in water or next to water. The next part to this garden is the just encouraging bird life, and we've got natural natives here, nicows and pereires that are great, especially the pereires for attracting the wood pigeons, and then the kiru. And then we come into this garden here, the African plants. This was one of the main ones that were there when I started back in 1983, and it's still there. And still looking good, and good for getting information on that particular group of plants that are from South Africa. Looking at these amazing cactuses, obviously it shows you the diverse climate that we've got, that we can grow cactuses, and we've also got deciduous plants as well. So we're really lucky in the fact we can grow all these plants and grow them well. This is the rock garden. So my term outside, in the second year, first year I was in the nursery, second year I was outside, and I used to look after this area, this rock garden. And man, in the summer it used to get pretty hot, and I'm pretty fair skinned, so I'd sort of end up having to have a big hat on and really sort of protect myself a little bit from the sun. Okay guys, we're coming to the end now. This is what I think was a really cool feature. That's one that we like to always visit. And obviously there's a cafe there to have something to eat. There's lots of information. Auckland Botanic Gardens is a great visit, definitely worthwhile to check out when you're in Auckland or New Zealand.